Okay, I would like to open the March 3rd, 2015 meeting of the Warrenton Board of Aldermen. And the first order of business, I would like to ask for a Pledge of Allegiance. Alderperson Casserly, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I would like to ask for a motion for approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting from February 17th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Alderman Clark, seconded by Alderman Dreyer, to approve the minutes from the meeting of February 17th. Roll call vote.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Schluter?
Yes.
Alderman Holly?
yes.
Alderperson Casserly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. I would also like to entertain a motion to approve the executive session meeting minutes from February 17th, 2015.
I'll make a motion to approve the executive session minutes from February 17, 2015.
Second.
Have a motion by Alderman Schluter, seconded by Alderperson Holly, to approve the executive session minutes from February 17th, 2015. Roll call vote.
Alderman Schluter?
Yes.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Alderperson Casserly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. And I will also entertain an approval of the revised February 2015 five-year strategic plan. Everybody had a copy of that. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the revised five-year strategic plan from February 2015.
I'll second that. Okay. Do you have some comments?
Yes, you had some comments on it?
Yeah, I think for the public's sake, the strategic plan has been approved, and this is the first one we've done for a while.
This is the second one.
Second
This
one.
last year.
Yeah, that's right. But I think the thing that's important to our strategic plan is it goes along with action steps. So often in an organization, you do 5-year plans, 3-year plans, and they kind of sit by the wayside and you dust them off. But that's not how we've been doing it with the city. The plan has specific action steps that employees are currently working on, with a 1-year process, a 2-year look, a 3-year look, and a 5-year look at different things under the plan. So I think if the public takes the time to look at this, I think they'll really get an idea of where we're trying to go as a city, and these are real steps and real goals that we have in the plan that I think will make significant improvements to the city. That's my own comment.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but all these are available on the website, on the
Yes,
city's
they are.
website. So the public is encouraged to go on the city's website and look at these. And to echo what Alderman Ock said, the department heads do take a very active part in implementing all these issues on the 5-year plan. So it's definitely a citywide project, and we appreciate everybody's help in getting it done.
Because even if you look at the first two things on the plan, improving the website's efficientness, and we're currently working on the website. We just hired a firm to help us work with this. The second thing, a bullet point of the plan, is to introduce a citywide newsletter, and most of you should have received that first newsletter just the last week. So, you know, this is something that we use as a working tool, not just as a document to say we have it.
Alderman Clark?
I just have to say, overall, I'm in favor of our plan. There's just a few parts in it that I'm uncomfortable with. I don't think I have enough information, but overall, it's a plan that I support.
Okay, well, good. Anybody else, any other comments on the plan? Okay, not hearing any, I will move on to the next item on the agenda. As always, we
We need to approve it.
we didn't do, we didn't do a vote. Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Hawley, seconded by Alderman Schluter to approve the revised strategic plan for revised February 2015. Roll call vote.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Schluter?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, as always, we welcome to hear comments from the public. So if there's anybody here from the public that would like to address the board, we will allow you 5 minutes. And if you need more time than that, we ask you to be put on the agenda. Okay, not seeing anybody or hearing anybody from the public. I also open this up to the Board of Aldermen. Do we have any comments from the Board of Aldermen on any specific items, general items?
No,
I was genuinely pleased with the city road crew on how quick they got on some of the roads and how clear they got them real quick. I really appreciate it.
I think the newsletter looked really good also.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that. I've had several comments on the newsletter that went out. And I think people will, as it moves on in the future, it'll be something that the public will appreciate more and more. And hopefully they can give us some feedback on it too. So, have you had any feedback, Terry, or anything?
The only comments that we've received is just people who expressed how much they liked it
Okay.
and appreciated having it. We've not really had any suggestions for future editions.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I do have one.
Alderman Ock?
Yeah, I think the public needs to be aware, we're starting to implement the new way we can handle the water and sewer payments. I think the Board of Aldermen were the guinea pigs on getting water bills sent out to us in emails. And so we have the forms available now for people to sign up. They have water bills sent to them through via email. I think it's for those of you who aren't as organized like me, who loses bills occasionally. It's great to have something come via email and being able to pull it up and act on it right away. So I think that's going to be a great benefit for people who are into that. So please take advantage of that, and you can sign up for that on the city, through the city.
It also avoids the delayed mail delivery.
That was going to be my point, that we've had so many problems with the mail being late and people getting their bills late, that for those people that are concerned about the timing, this is a way for them to get it immediately so that they don't risk not getting it in the mail until later on.
And this really is a result of a public request or complaint, because when I was first elected, I did get a number of phone calls from people who were complaining because they didn't get water bills, they were being charged late penalties. So we started looking at this a couple of years ago to see if we can implement something that would eliminate that problem. So this is where we're at, and please take advantage of it if that's a concern of yours.
Any other comments from the board? Not hearing any, I will move on. Thank you. The only comments I have, from my standpoint, last Friday, Senator Gene Riddle held a kind of an open meeting at the county offices out on Mockingbird Lane. I was disappointed that there weren't more people there, but I met with Senator Riddle. Her main concern was she wants to hear from cities, counties, etc., about any issues we have with the state and everything. So the one thing our conversation talked about was the issue with the toll road. I know our city, along with other cities along Interstate 70, counties along Interstate 70, it's a big concern with them. And she expressed that everywhere she's had these meetings, that seems to be the #1 topic on their list. So I did express our concern about it. And from what I gathered, she, of course, being a representative of a lot of counties along Interstate 70, she does not think the toll road is the best answer either. However, the big question is, what are the alternatives? Be it increased gas taxes, sales taxes, excise taxes, in order to, everybody knows our roads and bridges, our infrastructure in that respect is in need of repair. So she's always open to comments from anybody out there, be it the cities, the counties. She would love to hear from any elected officials. So I would open this up to you all to feel free to contact her and let her know your thoughts on it. I think she will be back for another meeting in March. But I think instead of being the last Friday, I think it'll be here the last Monday due to some conflict she has on that Friday. But she intends to send out an email to all elected officials in Warren County, inviting them to this forum. So if anybody's interested, feel free to get out there and.
It's still supposed to be 10:30?
I think it'll still be at 10:30, yes. So basically, that's all I have to say. If anybody's got anything to add to that, so. Next item on the agenda, turn it over to Chief Hottishell to introduce our new police officer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Stand up. It's my pleasure to introduce our new police officer, Nick Clark, who came to us from county. So he, once again, another one that traded brown for blue.
So,
Well, looks
okay.
good.
Well, welcome.
Okay. Now
Nice
you
to
have
meet
to
you.
stay the rest of the meeting.
We're getting some big boys now.
Yeah.
So,
I think he meant that in the nicest way.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, this is nice.
Thanks, Nick.
Anyway,
Congratulations.
welcome aboard, Nicholas, and thank you. Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is the issue of the high-usage water bill for 206 North Market Street. John and, is it Samin Cook? And you all have the background on that.
Are they in the audience?
Do you all need to approach the board or anything on this, or
I'm not sure how much detail you guys got from it.
We need to come up here.
you want to come up and?
I'm not sure how much detail you have from it, but I purchased the property off of Market Street with the intent of fixing it up and restoring it. I'm going through some issues right now as far as getting some plans updated for approval. And in the meantime, I ceased any work on the building. And then not long after that, had an accident and got a concussion. So I was out of action for a while. So I hadn't been on the premises for a good part of that month. I had no idea that there was an issue. I kept a space heater where the water comes into the building downstairs, just to make sure it never got below freezing downstairs. And I'm not sure exactly still what happened, but the pipe must have burst or something, you know, a lot of water shooting out, and it had been going on for I don't know how long. So not only is a high, you know, usage bill, but I mean, I drive a Prius and plant trees on Earth Day, and I hate the idea of all that water just going down the drain too. Kind of sickening. So I'm not sure if there's anything that can even be done or any sort of help or relief on that. It's really nobody here any problem, you know, but I'm not sure if there's anything. We just wanted to try anything we could do to get some kind of help on that or any kind of relief whatsoever.
What kind of relief would you be requesting?
Just some kind of, if there's anything possible to help the bill go smaller than what it is now. In fact, I got a call, it was the previous Monday, from somebody saying they had trouble reading the water meter. And I said, you know, so we made plans to meet on Friday. And I guess in the meantime, somebody had gone out there and was able to get a reading. And they called and said, "There's you know, are you aware of an unusually high water reading?" And I knew right away something was wrong because I hadn't been there that whole time. And it's like, oh no, I haven't used the property whatsoever. Immediately left and took off up there, and then I opened the door and I could smell, you know, whether it's bleach or whatever, a little bit of something. I knew there was water, and I hadn't had the water turned on, you know, or used it. And you can see the previous bills that we had, it was nothing being used, even before then. So I went over there immediately once when I knew was aware of any kind of problem, and got it shut off.
So this one bill is just for 1 month?
Yeah.
So we've been reading all along, so this occurred from one reading to the next reading?
Mm-hmm.
Well, from my perspective, these are always the hardest things to deal with because as a human being, as emotional, you want to be benevolent. You want to say we understand the issue. The concern we've always had is what kind of precedent do we set if we start relieving bills? You know, do we have continued stream of people in here with the same type of responses? I know in the past when we've had these years ago when I was on the board, it was really difficult to consider any kind of relief because ultimately it's the property owner's responsibility. If the city was negligent, if, for example, this represented 2 or 3 months where we just failed to read the meter so we couldn't notify you, then I would say the city might have some responsibility. But if it's between meter readings, I'm not sure what we can or historically have done. Have we ever done anything on relief on these things historically?
No,
No.
not as far as crediting the bill. We've allowed some short-term payment plans,
Right.
so it's not so much all at once, but no credits on the bill.
Yeah.
No credits on the sewer end of it either, as far as.
Not if it goes down the sewer. You can get a credit if it goes out onto the ground, so it doesn't go into the sewer. Then we can credit the sewer part of the bill, but not when there's evidence that it actually went into the sewer.
There's a sump pump down in the room, the basement. There's like a French drain, and some of the water was going down the drain, but not the other part, because there's so much volume. The other
Right.
part was going up the sump pump. Just who knows how long. I haven't got my electric bill yet either on that, but and I mean I understand what you guys are saying. I just thought we'd try, and I was hoping, you know, even worst case, like that Monday, when I got the call about not being able to read it, I would have taken action if there was any indication that there could be a problem. I thought just somebody couldn't beam through the window. I don't know how that stuff works, but you know, I immediately took off when I heard high water usage. You know, there's a problem. What's going on? And I, you know, responded as quick as I could.
That sump pump goes out to daylight?
Yeah, right up the pump out in the driveway.
There's just no good way about this.
Like I said, from my perspective, I don't know what kind of relief we could give without setting a precedent. And these are the hardest ones to deal with because you certainly are sympathetic toward the issue. Unless somebody has a better idea, I don't know what we could do, to be honest with you.
The only thing I was thinking of, is if there's any way to try to calculate or grant some kind of relief on the sub pump water going out. And that's hard to measure, impossible to figure.
Would a payment plan situation be helpful? I mean, is that something, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have it right now. I had, run out of funds to do much on the project, so I definitely needed help with that, but.
I don't think any of us like this position,
No,
be either in your
nobody-
shoes or our shoes at all. I really don't. I mean, I'd like to be able to tell you, you just erase it or cut it in half, but I don't know what we do when similar things happen the next time, or you can't set a precedent. So, I mean, my heart goes out because I know, I mean, that's a huge bill, and I don't know. I don't know how we can actually handle it and without setting a precedence the next time something happens. I had a real high water bill myself, and they finally came out and gave me one, but it wasn't $3,000, but I was still very shocked to have it. The only kind of relief I can see is if we could put it on some kind of payment plan to help you out. I just don't know how. Unless the
Anybody
board
over
thinks
here?
there's a,
Have you talked with your homeowner's insurance?
No, because it basically, the
property
sump
insurance?
pump was working and the drain was
Went right
working,
out the
so it
door.
didn't do much as
Didn't
far
do
as
any damage.
damage to the
Yeah.
structure. And then where the meter is, and then the pipe comes in from the city, there's an old shut-off valve, which I was trying to shut that off because I knew I wasn't gonna be back for a while, and that just kept spinning. I wasn't sure if it was shut off or not. So, and then of course it broke before it got to my residential shut off, so that's where,
and it was obviously shut off because, or something. You only had $2 worth of bills? Or -2? What was that? That was a credit? Oh, that was a credit.
yeah. But there was nobody there the month before, so whatever that bill was probably the minimum you guys have, if you even have one of those. It just wasn't used. And but the shut-off valve wasn't working, so I definitely need, before I would ever get that turned back on, I'm assuming the city does that shut-off valve because it's before the meter, the one that's broken.
I don't know on that.
I think ours just stopped at the street, the valve out the
Yeah,
street.
ours
Like
Well,
where
there's a valve before the meter?
yeah, and it's broken. And it's
My
right
house
where-
has got one like that too. It's got a valve before the meter too. But it just, the city stops at the street where, where the main water line is. Anything from there in is,
We don't
Home
see a
Still
guy
goes,
here.
yeah, it's still home.
Is that where the city shut off is there, or is it up on the
It'll
street?
be,
It's outside.
It's close to the street.
Shut off, yeah.
I'm just trying to help you.
That's why,
But the valve, the shut-off valve that's broken was before the meter, so I didn't know if I'm allowed to have a plumber come in and cut before the city's equipment or not, or how do I get that fixed? 'Cause, I mean, believe me, I'm super paranoid now.
it should,
I wanna-
it should be,
Yeah.
that, you should be able to get that fixed. I mean, like I said, my house is the same way, and that valve is my responsibility. Everything from the street to the house is a homeowner's.
I thought it was from well, I guess it depends how old your house is.
it's at the property line. If there's a curb stop, which is what they call the shut-off out there, it'll be right at the property line. If you don't have a curb stop, turn off out there at the property line, then from the main to the house is your responsibility.
well, and that's why,
Yeah,
and I don't know how many of you all, I've gotten that thing in the mail from this insurance company that
Right.
says if your water main breaks between the street and your house, anything that happens, you're responsible for it. You can buy insurance for it. That's what they're trying to do, is sell you insurance for it, and I never
This is before it
thought
goes
there was a
through,
need for it.
this is before it goes through the meter?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's anything, yeah, it's because you're responsible for it. I would never thought there was a need for it. Obviously, this would be a
You're
situation
gonna buy it
where
now, aren't you?
it might be, it might be, but, you
It's
know, I
gonna
mean, I'm
cost
not
you
trying to make
$2,500.
light of it, but there's
The
an
insurance costs
company
$2,500.
selling it.
I mean, you couldn't have the city having the line from the main to the house, because then we would have to have an easement on everybody's property
Right.
going to
Right.
work on it. And
So,
I don't know if
yeah,
anybody'd
it's
like to have a
too
big
much.
5
They don't
foot,
get
6
to
foot
the
easement in the middle of their yard.
That's true.
Get enough seconds. Subdivision there.
Okay, well, what's your pleasure, folks?
There's no pleasure, there is
I
nothing
know there's,
pleasurable
I mean,
about
that-
this at all. There is none.
Is there a way to calculate the daily usage of that bill? And could the board maybe consider just, like from that Monday where the city first called and said, hey, I can't read it? And because I would have definitely been out there and at least saved me that 4 days, you know, and I don't know even how much that adds up, but I'm just looking for anything.
I don't know how you could,
Well, you could take a daily usage and divide it by
Register.
how many days, that, you know. you
put it
could-
to, yeah, but, well.
That's an estimate, but, you know, to give him a $400 break on a $3,100 bill, I'd be supportive of.
Anything to help that we
I
can
don't
live with
know.
later down the road.
Well, yeah, I was gonna
That's
say, it's gonna have to be a
right.
logical approach that can be
appreciate it.
applied on a case-by-case basis.
But he's given us one, I think.
Right, but the fact of the matter is, even if they had read the meter, they don't necessarily make those calls the same day. They come back, download the readings into the data system, and then it's typically a couple days later when they go back through and get the high usage bills. So even if they would have read your meter, you probably would not have gotten a call that day.
Even
Because
if
there's a
it's-
whole process for it to go
It
through.
can be with this being broke, wouldn't it be spinning real fast? I mean, it wouldn't be called attention to it more? I'm just asking.
The readings go into a handheld device. It's automatic. It's not
So
that the person
he doesn't
looks
know
at
at
the
that
meter.
time whether it's a high use.
So
or not.
until those are downloaded into the computer system and fed into the billing system, and then they get a report, they print a report of all those readings and then look for the high usage. So it's a process that doesn't happen within a few minutes of the reading being taken. It's a couple day process at best.
Okay, so how many days is this bill for?
This bill's for 45 days, if I'm doing my math correct, from January 1st. then
From
there's the-
January 5th?
January 5th through 2/19, I calculated out, I don't know, I could be wrong in my math here, 45 days doing the 31 days in January, which equaled out in my book, what I'm doing here is $69 a day.
And is there any way to know, just out of curiosity, what day that happened, like where there started to be a spike, and is there a daily reading on that
No.
report? I'm just curious.
No, once a month. So
Just
it
the
could
whole
have happened
month.
at the beginning, or it could have,
Yeah.
just happened a couple days ahead. There's no way to know that.
And the handheld device is basically a dummy device. It doesn't have history to it. So if you were to go out and do the reading, it doesn't pop up on the screen and give you those results.
Mm.
So if it had the downloader with all that information, then you could get those high usages as you read it. But the way it's set up is that you have to be downloaded in the computer system before you even see that.
Right.
So Tony, if you took a week off, that's $381. If you wanted to do that, that would be that calculation for a week. But I'm just worried about the precedents. I'm just really torn because I feel for you. I really do. I mean, I wouldn't be able to handle a $3,100 water bill. But,
And I understand the precedents, but I think if you look at it on a case-by-case basis, that's a pretty legitimate case to consider, and I would be supportive of that.
I would be too. I think it's case by case. At least we have something to hang our hat on.
So,
So reducing it
am I
by the,
understanding you want to reduce
So
the
it was-
daily usage on the water end of it and not the sewer, or how do you, what?
well,
what are you
I was
looking
just calculating,
whole
you know,
thing.
doing the whole thing, the
The whole thing.
3141 divided by 45 days, taking off a week, which is $69 a day, which negates $381 off of it. In Karen math. Someone else might want to calculate the Karen math.
I'll
but-
take anything.
I'll take Karen math.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could do something a lot more. I just don't, I think that is pushing it, you know?
I understand, your predicament too. You can't, everybody will be coming in with water bills. We were trying to, just get some, I mean, that would be awesome.
You know, and I would be willing, even at that level, to still do, installment payments,
We could really
to
use that.
spread that out. I mean, I don't think that's a problem. Is that a problem to spread out 6 months?
How many, how long would you want to spread out the payments, so on this? Do you have a precedent on that, or?
The
what do you-
longest that we've ever done was 7 months.
7 months.
And I think the concern behind that, we're just gonna be honest with you, the concern behind that is if you say, okay, I wanna leave town and leave us hanging with that,
Sure, yeah.
Then,
I went to school with you and I was
Yeah.
class of '88, so I'm not going
Yeah,
anywhere.
I
I live in
thought
a-
He lives in the same house he lived in.
Yeah.
My cell phone is the number I had from 1982, so I'm not going anywhere.
but I mean, that's the other thing we have to
Sure.
consider for the residents. I mean,
Yeah.
that's our job, is protect for the residents, but,
Our intention was any relief we could get, so 7 months.
so
payment.
can I make a
Question.
motion, or?
Well,
we-
one
Yeah.
question, Tim, is if we, how do you handle it if you, stretch the payments? Okay, you give them a payment, say till the end of the year. Then they rent this out. How does that, they're still responsible for it, not the renters? How do you do,
Yeah,
how
this
do
It's
you
a
do
lien,
that?
right?
Yeah, this is the one-time payment that they're still responsible for, right?
In the past, which is all I can address, because clearly you guys are looking at something different than what we've done. In the past, what we've done is, we will not put that bill into anyone else's name until this bill is resolved.
Okay.
That's reasonable.
So they would not be able to have renters and have the bill put in their name. They would have to continue to pay the bill. Because once you
That's fair.
change it into someone else's name, then the entire bill becomes due and payable at that point.
That's reasonable.
All right, I'll make a motion that
Okay.
we,
Do you have the numbers?
that we discount the bill by $381 based on $69 a day times, you did it times 7 days?
I did it times 5 days.
Times
which is
5 days.
Reducing it $381 to $270.60. 2,760.
Well, we got different numbers.
Yeah.
Make your motion.
Sorry.
All right. So our motion is to discount it by $69 a day times 5 days, and then spread the rest of it out over a payment plan over 7 months.
I have a motion by Alderman Hawley to reduce the payment of the water bill by approximately $381
To a total of two.
and payable over 7 months. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Alderperson Hawley, seconded by Alderperson Casserly.
I didn't check on that.
Is everybody, you want to read it and make sure we got your numbers?
I'm trusting Alderman Casserly's numbers, and my motion was to discount the bill by $69 a day times 5 days, with the remaining portion divided by 7.
Okay.
Do you want me to calculate that?
Yeah, we need to put that in the, to have a legitimate motion.
We certainly don't want an illegitimate motion, do we?
What's
Not
that?
for
We
me.
certainly don't want an illegitimate motion, do we?
Okay, so we're taking 5 days times $69, right? Jeez. And I am one of those rotten insurance people.
I was gonna say, you
Talking
should be able
about-
to calculate it in
You
your
got
head.
So
three
that-
numbers there, I don't know which one.
I know, so the total bill would be $2,796.52, divided by 7 is a monthly payment of $399.50.
Giving us more
Okay,
information.
you want to incorporate that into your motion?
That,
Car payment.
no.
I know, but it
I know
it
it's-
helps
It's
tremendously.
not a lot, but
It
I
helps.
feel like it's.
And we promise we will never have a water bill like this again.
Karen, I come up with 69 times 5 is 349.
69
Can
times
we, can
5
we have,
is 345.
Okay, but you said 381.
Yeah, I
You
recalculated.
recalculated.
Yeah.
All right.
Did it again.
So my original motion of 69 a day times 5 days is the amount that the bill will be discounted. That'll be a total of $349 discount.
45.
The 349, because we're doing decimals over here.
$69.81.
At this point, $4.
Yes, yes. 349.
well, the teachers and the number of officials raised their hands.
You're the accountant, so.
I'm not in this
My number
conversation.
is right,
Why don't you just make it even $400 and make it easy?
because then it doesn't come out on our formula.
And I have you,
Wait a
Do you
second.
want to read what we have?
Yeah,
No?
we need. we
You want
need-
me to read back what I think?
We
I
need
think
your-
we discount $69 a day, and 81 cents times 5 equals $349.05. That's our discount. The remaining bill after that will be divided by 7 into monthly payments.
Okay, that's the motion. Everybody,
Is this
Clear on
is
it?
this Canadian dollars or euros?
Oh, Jesus.
Did we do a roll
No,
call
you're
vote?
on.
Look at, I know, that's what I was gonna say.
We'll take the previous.
Is there a second to the motion?
is everybody clear on the motion? Can I have a
Karen,
second?
Yes, you can have my second.
Okay, motion by Alderperson Hawley, seconded by Alderperson Casserly to approve reduction of the water bill at $349.05 to the water bill at 206 North Market. The balance to be paid in 7, is that right, 7
Correct, 7 installments.
7 installments. Everybody clear on that motion? Okay, I ask for a roll call vote.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
No.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Schluter?
Yes.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1. Thank you. We're
Really
sorry
appreciate it.
again, we
Appreciate
couldn't
it.
do more.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda. Director of Operations, Terry Thorne, discussion of possible changes to the yard waste ordinance. Terry?
Sure. At last meeting, you all talked about some desired changes that you potentially had to our open burning ordinance, and asked that we do a survey of some other cities to see what their ordinances reflected. You had, the results of that were in your Dropbox. What it really shows is that if the cities in St. Louis County, fire, open burning is really pretty much prohibited by EPA and DNR regs, other than very specific circumstances. When you get closer to us, it really is all over the board. Some places allow open burning of leaves, bonfires, and fire pits. Other places don't allow any of those. So I think to say that in this area there is a specific, more than some other thought process One is more prevalent, it really is not. I did speak to Fire Chief Owenby to get his thoughts. His overall feeling is that currently in code, there are provisions, both in the fire department's code and our currently accepted fire code from 2009, that if there is an open burning and smoke is offensive to a neighbor, the fire chief has the ability to require the fire to be extinguished. He said they do get some of those calls, and when they do go out and require whoever has the burning to extinguish the fire. His overall thought was that he did not feel that changing the current code was really warranted, because he feels like this provision of the code takes care of anyone who would be offended or have a complaint about the open burning. He said for bonfires, the fire department requires a call-in and a verbal approval to be obtained from the fire department so that they know where bonfires are going on, and that they're aware of those. So he feels like that education of the public is really the answer to the question. Because most people don't know that they can call dispatch, make a complaint, and that someone from the fire department would come out and deal with that situation. So his recommendation was additional education to make sure that all the public is aware that that's an option.
Yeah, I was not aware of that either. I mean, that's, again, a communications problem maybe that hasn't been put out to the residents of the cities to make them aware of what.
And that needs to be ongoing communication, because you can't just do it this year and then forget about it again
Well,
for
yeah.
5 years. It's gotta be,
I think every year probably this should be a good topic for our fall, winter newsletter. You know, to put that in there, and that this is, you know, and again, considering that leaves and that time of year in the fall is the main thing, but.
He did want the board to be aware that they have not had problems with open burning, fires getting out of control, or unattended fires. He said they really have not had issues with that. He was very pleased that they have not had those types of issues in the city.
That they're aware of.
Well, they have not had problems.
And what he's talking about is not a city ordinance. For them to go out and put out a fire has nothing to do with the city, because we don't have an ordinance that says that, correct?
We actually don't have an ordinance, but it is part of the 2009 fire code that we have
We've
adopted. So really, that 2009 fire code reads almost exactly like what the fire department has adopted. So by virtue of us adopting the 2009 fire code, yes, it is part of our current code.
Well, I'm not gonna push the issue. I think I brought it up, and maybe Karen did too. I still think it's a mistake not to do it. I would be curious if the fire chief has the ability to do counseling between neighbors. If my neighbor has a fire going on, and I call up and ask them to put it out, and the fire department comes out with their trucks and they put out this fire, and my neighbor's irritated at me, is he gonna counsel my neighbor and myself to see if we can reconcile our relationship? Of
We
course
did not discuss that part of it.
Because the reality is, if the burning is bad, what you're doing is you're putting the enforcement issue on the individual as opposed to the government issue who should be enforcing it. Because if it's in the code and we recognize fires are dangerous and bad, it should be us enforcing it, not requiring a neighbor to enforce it on another neighbor. It's very similar to what we discussed with the daycare operation. If you have certain things in the daycare ordinances that your neighbor has to squeal on you for to get enforcement, and you don't know that until it happens, you're in the same situation. So I fundamentally, I agree that we should educate 100%. We should put it in a newsletter. We should make sure everybody's aware. I just don't think it's the way to go, but I don't think there's enough support on the board to push it, so I'm not going to push it.
Well, and my question is, do we need an ordinance if we're already adoptive of the code? That would be my question to you all. Do we?
You'd only do an ordinance if you were to stop or contradict what's currently on the
Yeah.
books.
Well, either that, or do you need enforcement from, if we have an ordinance, then you can go to the police department for
No,
enforcement?
we're not,
or do
we're
you-
not gonna enforce it to the police, he's gonna enforce it himself, right?
But I mean, if we do an ordinance, then does that take it out of,
Well, only if you do an ordinance not to allow it, does it take it out
Out of the
of your
meeting.
hand. But if you, I just don't see how requiring a neighbor to
To narc on a neighbor.
narc on a neighbor to get enforcement on something that shouldn't be done anyway is something we should be considering as a board. I just don't see that, because it is a nuisance. And if he thinks there's no fire, people watching burning leaves and not watching their fire, he hasn't been in my
Then he
neighborhood.
is.
Alderman Ock,
Then he-
we-
then
He
he
hasn't
is.
been in my
But
neighborhood.
we do that now.
Well,
If you have a dog at large or anything else, you have to make a statement for some to
Right.
be issued. It's the same scenario of what we're already currently doing.
and I
So
realize
that's-
that,
It's
but
not an adaptive thing, we're doing it currently, so, I mean, I'm not trying to cause the argument, but if we're already doing that, then do we need to consider changes in other areas?
That's what I mean. I don't
And
think-
they do call them, they do shut them down. I know Jerry Dyer was burning a stump out there by 47, and they came by and made him put it out because he wasn't attending it.
well,
So they do take care of that.
and I think that when we discussed this last meeting, there was a role for the police chief in this whole thing. And I have a real issue with the police department enforcing fire code regulations if the fire department's gonna enforce fire
Our-
code
Our
regulations.
hazardous waste determining chief?
Yeah.
I
That's-
wanna make
yeah,
one
well,
quick
That's what I'm
point.
saying. I don't think we need to.
If the fire department goes out there and enforces it, the city is the only people, they can't write tickets or summonses. We're the only ones that can do that. They have regulations to enforce, but they have to go to the county prosecutor. Realistically speaking, they're gonna go call city police officer and ask him to write a ticket if it's a, and I just wanna let you guys know that, they can't write tickets, we write tickets.
Right.
The second thing is I do think there's two things in our ordinance currently that we need to think about retaining, which is the solid waste, which is burning of trash. We want to make sure we explicitly prohibit that. And I think historically, I don't know what the history of it is, but there were, I think, people burning yard waste in the culverts. Is that?
Yes.
That's why this originated, is because people were burning yard waste in the right-of-ways, and that was creating a nuisance. So
We
I think.
already have an ordinance against that, don't we?
Right, but we talked about modifying the ordinance, or I assume repealing the ordinance that we have in place. We will have to change it a little bit. We'll have to slightly modify it to clarify it, this section of the fire code.
And we do have
The,
to modify it to take out the infectious and the hazardous waste as well.
Well, that's fine. We'll
And
take
solid
out-
waste.
Which that's already,
Infectious and
that's
hazardous.
already covered too, to a certain degree, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. We can take that out. I just want to make sure the practical application of burning trash is in there. That you're not allowed to burn it.
Well, and we could add the requirement specifically in this part of the code, if you all would like, so that there's language that talks about obtaining the verbal approval for a bonfire, so that that's clearer.
So that they know who they contact.
Right,
and-
because I agree, I
How
don't
much
think the
notice?
police chief should have a role in approving fires.
No.
But you still, I think by the fire marshal, you still have to get that approval or a verbal approval from the fire chief.
From the fire department, yes.
To burn leaves?
Yes.
No,
No, the bonfire.
to to have a bonfire.
Considered bonfire or big fire. That's in the city and county. For
So if they don't get the approval from the fire department and they have a bonfire and it's not in our code, what difference does it make? If they can't give a ticket?
It depends on the nature and the circumstances around it. What
But-
Councilman Graville was saying was, if it is documented and can be documented, they got out of control, or what be it, or they didn't have a permit, I guess to a certain extent, they can go to the prosecuting attorney at the state level and ask for charges to be filed for reckless or any other type of demeanor.
I mean, practically speaking,
But
they're
if
going to
there's
call a
complaints,
city
they
officer.
they have to put it out.
Yeah. They have the authority to have them put it out.
Right,
But
right.
it came down to like an enforcement issue. and they're gonna have to call the city PD because they don't have power to write ticket or cite or
Issue a
whatnot.
summons.
Yeah.
I don't really know what we're trying to do here
Okay.
right now.
So how do we want to,
Do we want to leave things as
do we
is, or
want
do
to
we
leave
want
it
to
as
make a
is, or
change?
how do we put it in a motion if you want to?
I think we gotta probably make a slight modification.
We
to
need
our
to
ordinance.
rewrite
Yeah, it
the
was-
ordinance that was proposed last meeting and bring it back with those things we've discussed.
Could be passed as a new bill, or be passed as a motion.
I think we
With
can
the new
just take your
verbiage.
feedback without a motion and just
Right.
take it back, as long as you guys are in somewhat consensus.
Because the question from last meeting really was, do we want to ban burning in the city of Leaves entirely? As I understood it, that was the question we were trying to get an answer to.
That was the hang-up, yeah.
For the record, I would still like to do so, but I realize the fact that I won't get it through. So I'm not gonna waste anybody else's time.
And for the record, when we did do the survey, just to think that it's only metropolitan St. Louis, Washington does not allow burning of leaves, and Union do not allow burning of leaves.
Well, Fallon doesn't allow burning of leaves.
So this is not,
Like St. Louis doesn't allow burning of leaves.
so,
So if we want to be a metropolitan city, and we want to grow like a metropolitan city, at some point, we're going to have to start acting like one. That's all I'm going to say about that.
at this point, we're gonna say, do we move the
I don't think
agenda?
burning leaves is gonna change any of that.
We will if you're in the
So anyway,
neighborhood
we
with
have
burning
no-
leaves.
And your daughter doesn't have
You're gonna have to
asthma
go,
either.
Okay, we-
you're gonna have to
My
go
son
argue with
does,
Charlie
though.
about growing or not.
Okay, then we have no, we'll wait till next month to clarify a motion and act on it then.
We'll bring a proposed ordinance
bring a
back next
proposed-
week.
Great, we get to talk about it again. Now can we sing that charter song? Charter.
No,
We hear it.
999.
just bob your head.
Okay, the
Be all right.
charter lease,
I was wondering where you were
The charter
going.
lease agreement we have been working on for, it seems like a year, but it's been almost a year. We finally have an agreed upon proposed lease, which renews the lease for the premises at 312 Holman Drive. The initial term would be through February 28th, 2020, so it's an initial 5-year term. It increases the rent from the current rate of $1,650 a year to $5,000 a year. Provides for 2 5-year renewal options at charter's discretion. And those potential increases would be limited to 3% per year, which we would negotiate what amount of that or all of that would be the rate increase at each 5-year renewal term. All of your terms of the lease are basically the same. There were some minor changes that Chris worked on with their attorney, but really that's the gist of the major changes to the proposed agreement.
Now, this is just an agreement for the land usage.
Yes,
So there is no tie to them providing services for the city or to the city related to this. This is simply so they could pick their big tower or their big satellite out by what the dog kennel, is that what
Yes.
that? Yeah, that's
It's-
all this is.
.88 acres up by animal control.
Was this not at one time also tied to services to the city, such as broadcasting?
There was an agreement. It doesn't appear as if it was this particular agreement, but there was a franchise agreement that was in place which did require them to provide some of the equipment for broadcast on the public access channel. But it was not this particular agreement, although them deciding that they did not want to work with the city on equipment upgrades or even providing converters certainly prompted this negotiation to be much more determined than what it would have been had they been gracious and continued to give us cable for free and provide the converters.
How long ago was it since they last gave the city cable as a part of the agreement, do you recall?
At the time that the converters changed over, I want to say that's been maybe 6 months when the converters came into play, 6 or 7,
Okay.
somewhere in that realm. Until then, we didn't need a converter,
Right.
and we received the cable transmission without charge.
Just out of curiosity, what do we pay for cable services for the city? Ballpark?
$40-something a month, maybe.
And we don't,
So
so
we
we
don't
don't
get
get
it for
internet
free
service
anymore?
for that.
We don't use them for internet. It's purely just the basic cable channels,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. It might be $80 a month. It's fairly what I would call reasonable, but it is purely only the broadcast of the basic cable channels. So there
Okay.
is an
Anything?
ordinance, I believe, Melody, on later for
Later,
this.
yeah, we got
Unless
item
you all
number
have
12, I
some
think it is. We'll take that up in Bill's ordinance on
questions.
item number 12. Any other questions on that? Okay, next thing.
My
Terry?
next item is a tourism-sponsored special event. I know at our planning meeting, we talked about wanting a fairly large-scale annual signature event for the city. Tourism also has had that desire actually for quite some time now, and we've worked on trying to determine what that is. I think we now have that answer. They've decided to combine the AutoFest event that happens every September with a yet-to-be-named downtown street fair of some sort, shape, or fashion, so that those two events will run on the same day. Looks like the date is going to be September 26th for this year, with the initial plan of having the car show early afternoon, along with an appropriate musical entertainment. Shaboom has retired, so they're not available anymore, so someone of that, like we had for the AutoFest.
I was just thinking about something though, and I might be wrong, but we really need to check with the Relay for Life team because they moved the relay to the end of September. And I don't think we want to coincide this big event with that big event in town.
Okay,
We could have a gigantic event.
But yeah, but people would just be exhausted from one to go to the other. I think we might be milking this town too much in one weekend for that. I'm just thinking, so,
okay, this is the date that we've had established for quite some time.
I know, and I just thought of this, so.
Anyway, so band along with the car show, moving in along with children's entertainment, specifically family-friendly type of event, would allow preference to our current Warrenton businesses, give them the option ahead of time to be the vendors for this event. And then once we've determined what they're willing to sign up and provide as vendors for it, then would open it up to outside vendors to ensure that we have adequate numbers of vendors for the crowd that we would anticipate, leading into evening with some kind of opening act on the main stage, followed by a well-recognized name band yet to be determined. So would be basically an all-afternoon into the evening event, much like Catch the Glow was in the past, and putting those two events together and having some economies of not having those two separate fairly large events. So it is in the very initial planning stages, but I think this is probably where this is going to land. Do you agree, Mayor, that this is?
To address Alderperson Casserly's concern about that, that was one of the things that did not come up. Jessica has worked very hard on this. We met with the Warrenton Downtown Association. We Jessica was looking at different dates. Of course, the first weekend in September is Labor Day weekend. We looked at September 12th. She looked at that. September 12th is a major auto show in Branson, Missouri, one of the biggest in the state. There's also one in Herman, Missouri. September 19th is, the 18th and 19th is the weekend of Strassen Bash in Wright City. So it was kind of, we went back to, she looked, this is when the Auto Fest used to be. And it kind of, that's one of the reasons this date kind of came up.
Karen, is Relay for Life on a Friday night though normally?
It is.
Friday night to Saturday morning, I
Yeah.
think, is when they.
And
But the other thing is, when we looked at, and even talking to Downtown Association, we looked back at June when we used to have the Catch the Glow, in order to, now that we've kind of gotten away from that weekend on that, other communities have picked up on it. There are other auto shows. It becomes a very more competitive time frame to do things when you're doing it in June. July and August have been traditionally so hot. We kind of,
Yes.
thinking was to stay away from that.
And
So
I agree
didn't,
completely, but it is, the Relay for Life is Saturday, September 26th from 1 PM to 11 PM. That is a Saturday, and that's the scheduled date for that.
So,
It's already out there.
you know.
So, I mean, I'm fully supportive of the event. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware, and when you take the community,
Well, I guess what we're trying to say, Karen, is, no matter what weekend you pick anymore, there's going to be conflict with some other communities or some other things going on. That is also the weekend of, that's the Saturday of the Boy Scout wiffle ball golf tournament, which is their big fundraiser for the year. So, I guess whether you want to go to a car show and a concert, or whether you want to support the Boy Scouts, or whether you want to support the Relay for Life, it just becomes, like I say.
I believe these are events that you can go to all of them in the same day. It's not something that,
and that's fine, as long as the people that are helping you put it together, the community people that are putting it together, have the time and the ability to support both events. And I just, in my brain, go back to, we have our, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking in my microphone, am I? He's looking back at me. Every year at Christmas, we'll do the same thing. We plan our Christmas event, somebody else has a Christmas event. So I just don't want us ignoring the fact that it could happen, and I'm fully supportive of it, but just wanted to make sure everybody was aware before we finally decide.
And again, to echo what Terry said, this is still in the early stages. Nothing's etched in stone yet, but this is just something, and believe me, Jessica has put in
Oh, I
a
know.
lot of work on this. Trying to find a date, and then basically what we want to do with it. So, it's, I guess, I don't know if we're asking for more input on it or move forward with it.
I think you were just kind of telling us about it, weren't you?
Well, we were, and, so, but, it'll be something we asked to spend money on later through the Tourism Commission, so.
the Auto Fest is already set up. That's a firm date, isn't it?
What's that?
The Auto Fest, is that a firm date?
It's been the date that we've had put out there
In the
since
past.
we planned on AutoFest, but,
But I mean, that's the date that we put out to the public for the last
yes.
few months.
Well, we haven't put anything out to the public yet, have we?
Well, she put it into the newsletter. So the
Oh, okay.
newsletter talks about AutoFest. Now, whether it specifically had that date or
Had
not,
that
I
date
couldn't
on it,
say
yeah.
without looking, but it's always been that Saturday is what we've
Well,
done with AutoFest,
I was
but it's
thinking
not
with
set in
the Auto
stone.
Fest, I mean, that's usually planned a year in advance because you need to get your people with the autos in. That's just what I thought.
So
I think excuse me, Erica, go ahead.
we could do more discussion of this as we get closer, or as it finalizes or comes a little bit more to a head, correct?
Not on the day. If we're gonna make this happen, we've got to move it forward. We've got to get entertainment scheduled. We've got to give our local businesses the opportunity, because what happens with vendors who go to these different festivals, when spring hits, they set their schedule. We've run into this a couple of different times when we've waited too long, and then you won't have vendors for your event, and we'll run into big issues. So we can't push the ball down the road. We have to make a decision and start planning if we're going to move this forward.
Understanding the concerns, I'm good with September 26th.
Okay, and one of the points, you know, we call it, or we're saying the Auto Fest. Gary, while you, excuse me, my throat's getting dry.
Expect a tip.
One of the things we want to get away from is, we want to call it something else. We know Catch the Glows, that's a dead dog, so to speak. We don't know whether to call it Autumn Fest or
Fruit Fest.
Well, we don't want to go back to Fruing Fest, I don't think, that was, but we want to call it the Autumn Fest / Auto Fest to start with, and eventually, you know, maybe get away from the Auto Fest part of it, it still being a part of it, but not necessarily a part of the title. Just like Catch the Glow, we had an auto show there, but it was not mentioned in the name. So we're hoping somebody can come up with a creative idea for a name for it. Basically, we want to stress that we're getting back to a street fest for Warrenton, for the Warrenton residents, Warren County residents, of which we want to have the vendors, food, games for the kids, a family affair, and live entertainment. So that's what we're trying to get back to. I rest my case. I rest.
I'm moving on.
What's that?
I'm moving on.
Yeah, move
Okay.
the agenda.
The only other thing that I have is just to let you know, but more importantly, to let the public know that there were a lot of trees that were taken down recently in Binkley Park. In the past, we have moved those logs to the shed, up by the shed on the hill, and have allowed people to come in, supposedly residents to come in and take that wood away. I discovered this last week that even though it was our best effort to have our residents do that, that has turned more into a profitable situation for people who are in the wood business. So we are, because there is a huge volume of these logs, we're going to move those. In fact, I think they've already moved a good deal of those. We're going to put those out on Craigslist and sell those to the highest bidder, just like we do other things that the city's disposing of, because I've been told there's a good value in this much firewood, and my belief is that whatever we gain through that is a plus for the city and for the residents of our city, since it's really not residents burning the wood in their fireplace at home that this has been going to. I also have concerns about people coming up to the city property and using chainsaws and bringing bobcats and heavy equipment to load this up. I think we've got a liability there, so this will eliminate all of those issues and hopefully bring some revenue into the city. So for the public, because apparently we get calls all the time wanting to know when we're going to have more logs up there and available. So we are not going to be doing that process any longer. We're going to stack those up and take pictures and put them out on Gov Deals, and everyone's welcome to bid on those if they're interested. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions or anything for Terry? Okay, Gabrielle had to leave. She was ill. So do you want to do accounts
Sure.
payable?
Their request is to approve accounts payable for the prior month. The total is $378,954.24.
Make a motion to approve accounts payable in the amount of $378,954.24.
Second? Anybody second?
Second.
Alderman Dreyer. Have a motion by Alderman Ock. I'm sorry, John. He got your edge
Oh, no,
out.
that's fine.
Motion by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to approve accounts payable. Roll call vote.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Schluter,
Yes.
Alderman Holly,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Anything else on the monthly report?
Not unless there are some questions that you all would have. I'd be happy to answer what I can.
Questions for? Okay, Michelle, monthly report.
Good evening. The only thing I have for you tonight is my monthly report.
I would have one question on the lead from RCGA. Were you able to provide any available sites?
No, because the only one that we have that we have that's in heavy industrial is not to their specs. It doesn't have, it's not 100% developable. It's not all cleared and ready and doesn't have a phase 1 environmental on it.
Okay. What's the tallest building size that we can do in Warrenton?
Jack,
Just curious.
the tallest size building we could do in Warrenton. Do you know what
What's the height?
I think it's 25 feet.
Okay, so that would have knocked this out right there. Okay.
Assuming it was in the city limits. Is there a
But it's usually a fire.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
It might be 25 in residential and 35 in commercial. I can look real quick.
I'm just curious. That's not necessary. I was just curious in looking at the parameters of that project.
Okay, any other questions for Michelle? Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, now
Just
bills.
here for the enjoyment?
Yes.
Okay, bills to ordinance. Call for first reading of bill number 09-15. An ordinance to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement, or I should turn it over to Melody on this.
Well, I'll make the motion to call for the first reading of bill number 09-15.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Casterly, seconded by Alderperson Holly.
I'll make a second final reading and passage of bill number.
She's got to read
We
it.
gotta
Sorry.
read it.
An ordinance to authorize the mayor to sign an amendment to lease agreement between the City of Warrenton, Missouri and Charter Communications Entertainment One LLC.
I'll make a second final reading and passage of bill number 09-15.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Schluter, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for second reading and passage of bill number 9-15.
An ordinance to authorize the mayor to sign an amendment to lease agreement between the City of Warrenton, Missouri and Charter Communications Entertainment One LLC.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Schluter,
Yes.
Alderman Holly,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
No.
Motion passes 5-1.
I make a motion, we go into executive session for the purposes of litigation and legal counsel.
Can I make one comment? In the industrial zone, it's 50 feet.
50?
It's the
Okay.
maximum.
Okay, thanks.
I have a motion by Alderperson Holly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dreyer to go into executive session for legal counsel litigation. All in favor?
Wait, roll call vote.
Oh, roll call vote on that? Okay, I'm sorry. Roll call vote.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Schluter,
Yes.
Alderman Holly,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Executive session is